You're listening to A Splash More with Bailey and Hayley, two moms, 12 years apart, who aren't afraid to spill it.
Around here, we pour the wine, tell the truth, and skip the sugarcoating.
So grab your glass. It's time for A Splash More.
Oh man, well it's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you.
The reason why, for many reasons I wanted to have you on, but like there's this whole part of your life that I don't know anything about. I know that you adopted Olivia, and I remember like talking to you a little bit about it after the fact, and like you telling me how you came to this decision and all of the things. So I want to like really get into your story, but the premise of it and like what I hope people eventually will listen to and take away from this is like there's so many ways to create a family and to create the feeling of a family.
Yeah.
And adoption, I think, is something that doesn't always get like talked about completely. And I don't know if it's because like, sorry, my earpods falling out. The like process I know is really challenging or can be, the like cost behind it. And I don't want to ever just like have that be what it's about, but I just want to like have a real honest conversation about like the process of adoption, how you came to this decision. And just so everyone knows who listens to this, Melissa and I, like she was my very first friend, I would say, in Los Angeles when I moved here.
Oh, yeah.
We were super close.
Yeah.
You were. And we were like, did a lot of stuff together, and there's like this whole section of your life that I kind of don't have any information about, and I want to learn your story for the first time with our listeners. I'm sure I don't even know if you've really like talked about it too much in public, have you? Like I know you've talked about her being adopted, but like the decision to get to adoption.
Not really. And honestly, like I'm kind of an open book. Like I have no filter, which can be a bad thing. Justin's always like, come on, like please stop. Like you don't need to share every bit of information. But I feel like this is such an important conversation to have because there's like so many misconceptions and the amount of times that people will hear my story and then like they didn't know that Olivia was adopted, or that they just find out and they're like, oh, I have so many questions for you. I've been thinking about adopting, like can you give me more information? And I love having this conversation because when I first started thinking about adoption, there was nothing out there was no information. You would Google something and it would be like, okay, well, is that real? Like what does that even mean? Like there'd be like pictures of kids that would come up and it would be like, what does that even mean? Are these kids available for adoption? Like how does this work? So yes, I love talking about this.
So tell us, let's go back to like the beginning. So you and Justin met. I was part of your like early relationship. I was part of your wedding, all of the things. I knew that like children were something that you guys wanted to do. But then, we sort of like our lives went different directions for different reasons. And I never really learned like how you got to making the decision. And I'd love to start there.
Yeah. So we, Justin and I got married and we kind of immediately were like, wanting to start a family almost, just because I don't know, I feel like we were like, let's just like try it, let's just try and see what happens. And then like a year into us like just trying and not really, I mean not trying but not trying, and nothing was happening. Cut to like 2 years, 3 years, and we were like, oh my gosh, okay, so maybe I should go to the doctor and figure out what's wrong with me. And so I went to the doctor and she was like, there's like literally like no reason why you shouldn't be getting pregnant. And let me tell you, at this time I was like 30 years old. Like I was like I was like 31. Like I was not old. For being like, but I will never forget, the doctor looked at me and she goes, I mean, you're not 22 anymore. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like she made me feel like I was like, oh, okay, well that's weird. Like maybe this just isn't gonna happen for me. But I remember sitting in church and I remember like a voice like telling me like, you should adopt. And this was like a long time ago. And I was like, that's such a weird thought. Like, that's so weird. Okay, whatever. And then in this time, that kind of thought just kept coming back into my brain. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I wonder what that even looks like. And I kind of brought it up to my mom and I was like, I think we're thinking of adopting a baby. And my mom's like, oh, that's a great idea. And so I was like, okay, well, where do we even begin? And so started Googling, started doing all of those things, and nothing would really come up. And so my friend at work, he and his partner were having a baby via surrogate. And I went to him and I was like, hey, I was like, what's your thought on adoption? Like, did you guys ever even think about adopting? I always tell it's Greg Ricard. I'm like, you are the reason why I have my daughter. Uh,
So sweet. I love that. I mean, I feel
well, he
like,
was just like, no, he's like, it wasn't for us. Like, we kind of thought about it. But we have friends that just went through the process, and let me connect you with them. And so he connected me with this woman, and she's called the Adoption Insider, and she kind of walks you through what that would even look like for your family to even see if that's a good fit. Because some people like immediately are like, oh, that's a good idea, but then wait, no, 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 that's not for us. And so I was
yeah.
like, okay, well, let's just like think about it. So I end up like driving up Laurel Canyon, leaving work, and I'm like praying, and I'm like, God, I was like, if you think this is something we need to pursue, like like please let me know. Like open the door, like give me a sign. I'm a big sign person. I was like, I just need a sign that
Yes.
this is what we're supposed to be doing. And I know that I think you probably remember
Right.
this about me about Dr. Laura. Like I love Dr. Laura on online or on she like AM radio.
Yes.
The radio
Yes.
radio like cuts
Yeah.
out. And I was like, oh, and I'm just praying, and then the radio
Oh my
turns back
goodness.
on. And Dr. Laura is like, our email of the day is from John. And she starts reading this letter, and the email is basically saying, like, thank you, Dr. Laura, for helping encourage us to adopt. Our son is like not our is not like blood related to us, but he is always my son. And it was just like a glowing promotion for adoption. I have never ever in my life heard Dr. Laura even do an email of the day.
Wild.
So it was like so weird. I got goosebumps. I started crying. I called Justin and I'm like, I really think we should adopt. Like, I think this is what we are being called to do. And he was like, okay. He was like, let's do it. And he was so supportive about it. And literally, when we made that
Yeah.
decision, doors flew open. Like we retained our
That's
lawyer
insane.
in the end of January, and Olivia was born in April. So it was like
That is
literally so meant
insane.
to be.
And
Yeah.
so meant to be. I was going to say, if there's ever a story where like a child or a human or a soul was meant to be connected to you guys' soul, like that is such a clear story of, and it what had to have been Olivia, right? Like I'm sure
Yeah.
had all
Oh,
of
yeah.
these pieces not fallen together the way that they did, she wouldn't have been your baby. And
Oh,
that is
yeah.
just not the way that the universe works, right? Like we are meant to have the children that we are meant to have.
Yeah, like the timing of it was just like so meant to be. And I'm very like impatient and an impulsive person, and I don't like to wait. So we met with the lawyer, and the lawyer was really cool because he kind of did it in a way where he tries to talk you out of adopting, because he was like, if I can talk you out of adopting in this meeting, you are not meant
You're
to
not,
adopt.
this
Like,
is not for you.
yes. And so like he was like, what about this? What about that? You should do that. And I was like, no, no, like I feel like this is what we need to be doing. And then he started like naming a
Yes.
scenario that was kind of like, so what if this birth mother came up with this and this and this? And I was like, yeah, that would be great. Like, and the whole thing with adoption that is just so strange to me is that it kind of is like, it can feel like you're like trying to like choose the kind of baby that you want, and we were just never that family.
Yeah.
We were like, whatever baby we are supposed to
No.
have, like that is the baby that we want. Like we had no specifications, we had no like, it can't like there was no like nothing where we were like, no, no, if that baby
Totally get
has this
it.
or
Yeah.
that,
Like,
we don't. Yeah. Yeah. And so we were like, oh no, like whatever, baby. And so I remember like a month went by, and I was like, Justin, I was like, why have we not heard from anyone? Like, why does no one want us? I was like, and
and like true
meanwhile, the lawyer
Melissa,
had,
in true Melissa form.
and Justin was like, Melissa, he was
True
like, this
Melissa
has
form.
been like, he was like, this has been like a month. Like the lawyer said it could
A
take
month.
like a
4
year.
weeks.
And I was like, no. I was like, no. I was like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, we are just, why would no one want their baby with us? And so literally 3 days later, we get a call, and I was like, oh my gosh. And anyway, a birth mother wanted to fly to LA and meet us. And so we met her, and it just went perfectly. And she was lovely. And we are still very close with her now. And so it just was so meant to be.
Great.
But it's funny because I was
Yes.
just so impatient because I was like, oh, it has been like 3 weeks and no one has called us. Why? We're really
Oh my
great. Like,
gosh, you are just like one of those people. You are, and you both are great, and you both do deserve to be parents
no.
and did back then and still do today. But it's also just so funny, like hearing you retell this because I'm like, this is so you. And I just like, you're like one of those people where it's just like you say it's going to happen and it happens. It's very like, um, just it's smooth sailing.
It was actually just such a seamless process for us that I know it doesn't go that way for everybody, but for us, it was. It's hard when people come to me and they're like, "Oh, this." I have friends who their adoptions have fallen through and all of that, but I'm like, it was just so. Olivia was just so meant to be our daughter that it was so easy.
Yeah, so I have the same. I did IVF. I don't know if you knew that. I talk about it a lot on the podcast.
Yeah.
And the reason I did it wasn't because I was struggling with any type of infertility. I was just old. And Joe and I met when I was 38 and we knew we wanted to have kids. And very quickly, like into our relationship, when we were clear that we were each other's person, I'm like, look, if we want kids, we need to like actually have the conversation now before
Yeah.
we're even like engaged, married, like all of the things. So we were clear, and this is the series that I've been like slowly releasing is about sort of this like process. And um my IVF experience was like so easy. And I feel terrible saying that because you know that there's so many people out there who go
Hmm.
through it and it's not easy if it even ends up with having, biological child that they originally had hoped to have. And so for me, it was just like wicked easy. Like I just did not have any problem. We had like one egg retrieval. We
Oh
had
wow.
we
Yeah.
ended up having three transfers. Yeah, one failed in between Cameron and Callie. But even when that happened, I'm like, oh my God. I was like, how did this happen? How did it fail? Because I had had so many easy things happen. But to your
Yeah.
point, whatever you believe in the universe, I'm like, these two
Yeah.
kids were meant to be my children because it was so
Yeah.
easy. And that's not to say that people who have a difficult journey and end up with a child doesn't mean that like that child wasn't meant to be your child.
Yeah.
It's just for me, my story, it sounds like you and your story, it was just like so clear that these babies right away were supposed to be our babies because it was easy.
Yeah. And
Um
also, I just like definitely think that you're only given as much as you like, yes, whatever you believe in. Like, I believe in God and in Jesus. Like,
yes.
and so I'm like,
Of
if he,
course. Yeah,
and
same.
so I'm like, I'm like, he only gives you what you can take. And I'm so, like I said, impatient that I feel like he knew that he
He
was
knew
probably
that you
like, oh,
couldn't.
she can't handle anything else. Like, we've tried to sell homes before, and I'm like, if it doesn't sell in one day, I'm like, why does nobody want this house? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
that's it. I'm not
I could
selling.
see like Jesus up there, God's up there being like, oh no, she's going to be asking me all day, every day we got to get, this one's got to get taken care of
We
quick.
just gotta, we gotta go. We gotta make
I
this
don't know.
process happen fast because she's gonna quit if not. But
Yeah.
it's so like
Yes.
I
Yes.
definitely believe that like there's a lot of people that can handle way more than I can. I am a very fragile person, and so I'm like I feel like he knew that, and so he was like, okay, like let's just like this is how it's meant to be. But yeah, it was seamless. Like I said, like 3 months, Olivia was in my house. Her birth mother did everything she said she was gonna do because a lot of people don't realize a birth mother can change their mind 30 days after the baby's
Yeah.
born. And so
Yeah. It's
she was
crazy.
really amazing to us. And she was like, you know what? I want Olivia to feel like I don't want you to feel like you can't bond with her. And so she's like, I'm going to sign this waiver, which basically after 48 hours, you have to wait 48 hours after they're born. But she signed a waiver to waive her 30 days. And so I was like, oh, and so I remember falling to my knees when our lawyer called and said she
So
signed the
sweet.
48-hour waiver. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, thank God. And so she did
Yeah.
everything she said she was going to do. And she was just, she's a lovely, lovely human being. We love her very much.
I love that. And I love that
Yeah.
story. But on the flip side of it, I always ask like the hard questions with these like
Yeah.
sensitive topics. And one of the things I think people would hear this story and be like, well, of course it's so easy for them, right? Like they
Yeah.
are Melissa Ordway and Justin Gaston, and they have, different paths to success and they have different paths to like doors that are probably opened for them. And I know that people will think that, right?
Yeah.
And so, what would you say to somebody like that who's sitting at home, who does not have the same access that you might have to somebody? What would you say to them?
I would say that if I were doing the process over again, like honestly, like, and I feel like this is one of the biggest hiccups and the things I disagree with most in adoption in general. Like our neighbors across the street were trying to adopt. I mean, the price of adoption has gone up so much that I don't know how people even do it
So
anymore. Like
insane.
it's absolutely insane. There should be some sort of way that people can get these babies in their homes in a way because
Yes.
for me, I'm like, if it benefited the birth family, if it was like something where it was like that money is going to like, better like so they could get like paying for their college or like whatever it is that that family is struggling with and why they're having to make this extremely hard and almost impossible decision. Like I don't know how birth families do it. Like my heart, like that's why I'm like, no matter what happens, like if you give your baby up for adoption, I have nothing but love and respect. And like honestly, I don't know how people do that. And so it's I can't imagine. But if that money went to them and they're like, oh my gosh, like not that you should be able to buy a baby, but the sickening part is
No.
that it goes to like lawyers fees and legal fees. And I'm
I
like, oh
know.
my gosh, like there has to be a way to make this more affordable for people because more people would adopt if it didn't cost. I mean, I think our neighbor is saying the average price now is like $70,000. Like I don't have
Yes.
$70,000 that I can just spend on that. And so luckily, like we were able to spend a much lower price 10 years ago. But
Yeah.
it definitely had its difficult times. I mean, it seemed, I know I talk about it like it was so easy, but I mean, there was a moment Olivia was born early that I didn't know if her birth mother was going to change her mind. And I thought that, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be there when she's born. And we went
Mm.
through a whole thing of like, kind of like, I'm like, well, if this is if she's supposed to keep her baby, then who am I to like try to change that for her. But there
Right.
there are a lot of ups and downs, and like there were moments where I couldn't get in touch with her for a while, and I was thinking she changed her mind. Like it's not easy for everybody, and there were definitely moments where it brought me to my knees, and I realized how I'm much stronger than I ever thought I would be. But and I mean I even think like the
Yes.
ongoing process of like adoption is a lifelong journey. It's not just like getting them as a baby and then raising them in your home. Like, I mean, Olivia has questions for me
No.
sometimes, and I'm like, I don't even really know how to answer that. It's there's struggles that come along the
Yeah.
way, or knowing like, okay, I know that this is what's best for her, but she's gonna have questions and potentially like want to leave me someday. Like there's always that fear of like, well, you're not. I don't think she would, but because we've always been so open with
No.
her about it, but it's a
Yeah, of
lifelong
course.
journey and you're constantly like
Yeah.
learning and navigating new situations.
Well, thank you for being honest about that because it's definitely like I don't have a ton of people in my life that have adopted or have like an adoption story, but the few that I do have, just some of the things that come up is like constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like even like
Hmm.
years later, you're just like constantly waiting. It's like this feeling of I don't want to say like temporary, but it's just hard from what I've heard from them and not temporary the love, like the love is not
Yeah.
temporary. The idea of them being your child is not temporary. It's like this feeling that like something is going to come and take it away.
Hmm.
And like how do you I'm sure you don't feel like that this many years in, but if you did at any point of this journey, like how did you reconcile with it?
I feel like for me, the biggest thing has been for us to just have full, open, and honest, like transparent conversations. Like from the time, like a lot of people are like, oh, like, why do you talk about her being adopted? Why do you celebrate it? We're about to celebrate her like gotcha day, which we used to call her coronation day, but now that she's bigger, she's
It's
like,
so cute.
well, she's like, I want to call it a gotcha day because that's what it's really called. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, but it's really a coronation day because when she was little, she loved Frozen. And so that's where we got it from. And so now she's
Yeah,
getting bigger, but she wants to
I love
celebrate it
that.
every year. And so I would say just like being very honest because we've talked to a lot of counselors and they were like, secrets are bad. And when we keep secrets, like
Yeah.
they kind of if you're keeping a secret about someone being adopted, it's like, well, that means that being adopted is bad because you kept it a secret. Why didn't you just tell me?
Shameful. Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
yes. And I'm like, there's
Right.
nothing I'm constantly like telling her like if she has a question about what her birth mother looks like, I have pictures I can show her. I am in contact with her birth
Yeah.
family. I'm like, there's always that. And I will be honest, there's a lot of the times that I have to swallow my pride and be like, okay, this is not about me. This is about
Mm-hmm.
her. And this is about what answers that
Right.
she has. And
Right.
100% of adopted children look for their birth family. So it doesn't mean that they're going to want to go and
Yeah.
have a relationship with them, but they want to know what they look like. They want to know, they have questions for them. They
Yeah,
have,
of course.
they want to know, which I would too. And so I
Medical
have to,
history. Yeah, like medical history, like siblings, like
yeah,
anything, right? Like
yeah.
anyone would want to know that.
Yeah, so I oftentimes like just bite my,
And
I'm just like, okay, if this is not about me, this is what's best for Olivia. And if
yep.
she has questions and if it's something that I can answer in a way that I feel is appropriate for her age or, appropriate for what she's asking and I can do that for her, absolutely. And a lot of the times it's like, she'll ask it and then it'll be at very random times. Like it'll be like driving in the car or like randomly getting out of the bathtub. She'll be like,
Yeah.
hey, I actually have a question for you about this. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay. And
You're
yeah.
like, okay.
Oh yeah, okay, I'll answer it.
Let me
But
get out Chat
it's like
GPT real quick. Hold
yeah.
on.
And so like basically like just being open and knowing that those questions are going to come up and it doesn't have any, it's not a knock on you or you being a parent. It's just that they are going to have those questions and they're going to want those answers. And so being open and honest has been the best way that I can deal with all of that, even though a lot of the times I'm kind of like okay, like, oh, like that's like a gut punch, or there's been questions of like,
Yes. Yeah.
like why didn't she want me? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that just breaks your heart because you can see like there's like
Her like
a value, like she,
brain.
yeah, and like, oh, is she like, I hope she doesn't like think that that has anything to do with her worth, like in her self-worth. And I'm like, it's just not. I'm like, she loved you so much, and it's just constantly like reminding her that there's so many people out there that love her. Like she loved you so much that she made that decision, and like there's a whole nother
Yep.
family out there that loves you a lot, and like she knew that we were going to love you a lot. That's why she put you in our family. And so
Yeah.
it's just questions of like, I don't know, just that sometimes you don't have the answer to, and you're like, I honestly I don't really know, but I can try to figure that out for you. And so it's an ongoing journey. It's not always going to be easy, but being honest is the best thing.
The best way. Well, thank
Yeah,
you. That actually just brought up a whole other like idea that I didn't really think about, just like going through this journey as an adoptive parent, where there must be so many times where you're just like I think about myself and with my kids, and there's like nobody else out there, right, that can claim that or can that have open questions about like what they look like, where they come from. And I can imagine like the strength and like the willpower and all of the things that it must take for you and Justin and anybody who's been in this experience to like keep reminding yourself that it's not about you, it's about them. And just like continuing to like take the bigger, I don't know if like be the bigger person is the right way to phrase it, but I mean, just like constantly reminding yourself that like you have to be second to this, right? Like
yeah,
her feelings, Olivia's feelings, and like the things that she needs answered have to always take priority to your ego,
yeah,
and to like that idea. Because if someone else came into my home and was like, hey, you're also, I would be like, wait, what? Like I am in charge of all of the things, like not, and you guys still are, like you are
yeah.
absolutely
But like
her
to kind of like,
parents, you're responsible for her well-being.
yeah, but and then to like add to
Go ahead.
that,
Sorry, I cut you off.
like, no, 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 to add to that, which a lot of the times I'm like, well, like, I'm old enough that I can handle it. Like I can figure it out. Like even though something might hurt my feelings, or down the line, if she, whatever she chooses to do, like I know that I'm the grown up in the situation. I'm the mom, so I have to be okay with it. But to add
I
to that
know.
is like Sophie only has one
Yeah.
sister. So Sophie like looks up to Olivia and thinks she's
Yeah.
like the best thing in the whole entire world. And she just like, oh, she's my sister. That's my
Of
sister, my
course.
big sister. but like Olivia has several siblings out there. And so I always kind of then think of
Yeah.
like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like what is that going to be like for Sophie if one day Olivia's like, well, I have da 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 da, like this person, and then it's like, oh my gosh, like I guess my mama heart for her is like I get like very protective of that more for her than even for me because I'm like, oh, like
Yeah.
she is going to have a very different, she's going to have a story in all of this. And I think a lot of the time I kind of forget that because everything is so much about like we celebrate Olivia being adopted and all of that stuff. And it's like, well, Sophie's like, I don't have a
Yeah.
coronation day. I just have a birthday. And it's like, well, no, like
Right.
she's gonna have a perspective and she's gonna have, we get her a gift too on that day, but it's like she's gonna have such a different point of view in all of this than even I will or Justin will or Olivia will because she's like she's the little sister and it's like I always wonder what that's gonna be like as they get older.
Yes. No, thank you for bringing that up because you actually have a unique situation, right? Like, I know that it's not like so unique that there's like very few of you out there, but you are unique in the sense that you have a adopted child and you have a biological child. And
Mhm.
I can imagine there's so many, to your point, like, I don't know if like overcompensation or what is the right word? Do you sometimes feel like you're like overcompensating to make Olivia feel like just as much a part of your family, or is that like a natural feeling that someone in your position might have?
Well, it's funny because a lot of the times like I forget that Olivia's adopted. And so like I'll be like, oh Olivia, that's just like me.
Yeah, I
You
can
know?
imagine.
Or
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm like, you look just like me,
Yeah,
Olivia. And then Sophie will be like, "Ugh, well,
and she
and I'm like, well,
does.
you look just like your dad. And so like, it's funny because it's
Yeah.
like, I probably forget about it a lot of the time, but there is like, yeah, I mean, the overcompensating a bit with like making her like to be like, well, God chose us to be your parents, and like to have that story
Yeah.
to tell her. We read her books about it, and Sophie's just like, well, what about me? And I'm like, no, you too. I'm like, clearly he chose us to be your parents too, just in a different way.
Yes.
And so, it's
Exactly.
weird because I like there are some times where like you feel like you're like okay like I shouldn't say that because like I always get super self-conscious when I say like Sophie like ugh, that's just like me and and like Justin will sometimes be like well, and then Olivia and I'm like well Olivia looks just like me too and like you just feel like you just want them to both feel so included and so
I know.
precious and like you don't want it to be like well that you're because they're both my children and I love them exactly the same and that's the other biggest thing. Like when you're going through the adoption process, everyone tells you, well, you're never going to love an adoptive child. Like the amount of people that had the audacity to say that to me through the
That's
process, people that I
insane.
worked with, so many people that were like, well, you're adopting. Well, you're never going to love her the way that you do a biological child. And I'm like, I am here to tell you, I have one of both and I love them exactly the same. There is no difference. They
Yes.
both take up my whole heart. And I literally like when I think of those comments, I'm like, I can't imagine ever saying that to someone, first of all, but also it's just so not true.
No, and I can
Yeah.
imagine like so like on another side of this is like going through this process in like a public, in a public way, right? Like not that like your story was super public, but you have a
Yeah.
platform and you have people that like we didn't even actually say who you were. So if you don't know, Melissa is, she is a longtime actress. I know that like your roles and stuff have shifted over the last couple of years, but you were
Yeah.
on The Young and the Restless for a very long time. I know that
Yeah.
you're still doing that role, not maybe as like often, but still
Yeah.
occasionally. And I'm sure you're doing a bunch of other projects that I don't know
Eh,
anything about yet.
not
But
really.
because of that, whatever, whatever, pay the bills. Like
Yeah, it's interesting the way that everything happened because when you're young, you're like, "Oh, I just want to be able to like support myself doing this job for like following my dream forever." And it did turn out that way. There have been and honestly, and I've heard this so many times. I don't know. I'm sure you probably have heard the same thing from a lot of your friends. This like 40-year-old like age of like being in a career. Like I have had so many friends at this age been like, I have to reinvent myself completely because this job fell
yes,
through. The entertainment industry is not the same as it used to be. This and that. And there's like
yep,
this age of like being in your early 40s where you like kind of think like, what am I gonna do? I've spent so much of my life doing one thing that now what? And I
Yep.
feel like that had been the past year of my life. Like, because I did exactly what I said I was going to do. Everything was, I'm just going to support myself and have a family and act and whatever. And then
Yes.
a year ago, I was like, do I have to like reinvent myself? And I'm like, I don't really want to do that. And I tried it for a little bit. And I'm like, it's just, I don't know. It's a weird time. I feel like your 40s are like, it's very strange.
It is a weird time, I think, especially for women. And this is part of the series. We talk exactly about this, about reinventing
Yeah,
yourself. Like that you could do that at any stage that you want. Like, hello, I have a podcast now. And
that's
like
so cool.
whoever, that's not something I ever thought I was, thank you. It's not something I ever thought I was going to do or ever like dreamed about doing, but it's just the way that the world unfolded for me. Like I
Mhm.
knew that I always had a voice that I wanted to use to tell stories and to help people feel connected, and to make sure that people weren't, lonely in whatever it is that they were
Mhm.
going through. And this just happened to be the way that it unfolded. And it happened to be in a time where I was also like, I'm in my 40s. I've been doing the same thing for so long in like different capacities. I have kids now, little kids. Like, how am I going to do that and like still have a career and make sure that I'm like feeling fulfilled? And it can be exhausting, like to be
Yeah,
honest. Like at this age, I'm just like, this is a lot, a
yeah,
lot. So what I've come to terms with is like, if it doesn't feel, I don't want to do anything anymore just to do it. Like, I want to feel
yeah.
good about the things that I'm doing. I want to make sure that I'm like leaving a positive impact everywhere that I go. And I want to be like a good, connected, like mother and wife. And that's really what's important to me.
Yeah.
We kind of like segued
Sorry.
a little bit, but I think it's important to. No, no, no. This is like absolutely part of the whole series that we're putting out, so it's completely fine. But I just want to go back to a little bit more
Yeah.
about the adoption like decision and process.
Yeah.
As so we're saying in the public platform, like being scrutinized, and imagine, so like you went into this decision without having like a reason necessarily. These AirPods, they just keep falling out. Sorry. Without having like a real reason to like why you needed to, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't like you had diagnosed infertility or anything
Yeah.
like that. Like probably down the road, as we know, because you have Sophie, it would have
Yeah.
happened naturally. So how did you feel like pressure? Was there a lot of like scrutiny around it at the time?
No, honestly, like Young and the Restless was so amazing about the whole thing. Like even with my work, because I was like, I'm gonna adopt a baby, and they were like, oh my gosh, yeah, of course. Like, how can we help you? And they were really, really wonderful. I think more of the scrutiny came from friends, honestly, friends that
Really?
everybody knows one person. And I will say this too, when people tell me these stories, I'm like, yeah, but don't you know like 10 other people that weren't adopted that had rough childhoods? Like everyone knows like a
Yeah.
kid or a story of a kid that's like, well, I know this kid that was adopted and he burned a house down or something. Like it's always like some
Yes.
dramatic story. And I'm like, right, but like I know like five other kids that were on drugs or gave their parents a hard time and
Yes.
they were not adopted. So I'm like, I got the most scrutiny I got actually was from people that I considered friends at the time. And they were like, oh, well, I wouldn't do that. Like, I just wouldn't. I think it's a bad idea. And I'm like, I don't really care if you think it's a bad idea. This is what I feel like I'm being called to do. And this is what's meant to be. And I
Called
know
to
that,
do. Yeah.
yeah, this is like what Olivia is meant to be my baby, my child. And so this is what we're going to do. And so, and even in the public eye and the platform, like I think in the beginning, I think there is that like, and I've seen it with other people that have adopted kids, like other actresses, oh, she just didn't want to be pregnant on the show, or like little comments like that. And it's like
Oh
honestly,
yeah. I
like
didn't even think of
not,
that.
yeah, like nope, it had nothing to do with any of that. It was just what we felt was right for our family and what we were meant to do. And um, so yeah, there's some like there's always online haters. I mean, they're gonna hate everything from my haircut to like whatever, and I've just learned to just tune all of that out. But people were overwhelmingly
Yeah.
very supportive, and I was very careful about when I released the news because I was like, I don't want there to be any question of like can they take, or can someone come and claim her, or like, is there any sort of like, and so
Totally.
we were like very careful about that, and overwhelmingly just had a lot of love and support with all of it. But going with that too is that a lot of women be like, will come to me and be like, I really want to adopt, but my husband, it's hard to get him on board. And I'm like, I just don't think that, in my opinion, it's probably right for your family, because it's not all puppies and rainbows. It is like a lifelong journey. And you have to have
No.
someone, a partner that's like on board with you, and you
Yes.
have to be on the same page, because I wouldn't recommend it otherwise. Luckily, Justin and I were together and we were in sync with all of it, and he was just so on board, and so it just made it easy.
Absolutely. And I think one thing, in any way that we choose to expand our family, right? There's people have a tendency to think, and a large part of what we talked about in the first couple of episodes in this series is that, like, there's this idea that when you are a little girl, you're born a girl, you
Hmm.
are given your first baby doll, right? It's like
Yeah.
immediately we are taught that we are meant to be mothers, right? And that we are
Hmm.
meant to be like mothers. And the way that that happens, especially in our generation and like generations before, is one way, right? Like
Yeah.
you have baby one way, and that's how it happens.
Hmm.
Um, and because of that narrative, I feel like so many people walk with like shame when they choose a different path, whether it's
Yeah.
through surrogacy, whether it's through adoption, whether it's through egg donor, whether it's through IVF, whether it's through
Yeah.
sperm donor. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Why? The way that someone chooses to expand their family, like, why is it it's not really our business. And um, why do we feel like we have to be so like judgy about it? Like, it can be a decision that we make, and then we just support people through. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be this thing because of the judgment that I feel like that can sometimes come with it. The people who are going through it have like a little bit of shame underneath it, where there doesn't need to be shame, because it's
Yeah.
like a beautiful thing being able to be a parent, and like making that choice however you choose to do it is such a beautiful thing that like we should honor. And that pathway to get to it, or that journey to get to it, however it looks, should be something that like is celebrated, and that people can share openly, and not feel
Yeah.
like, well, I had to take a different route, so it's because something is wrong with me. Like, you said something in
Yeah.
the beginning, and I almost called you out on it, and it's not what you meant, but you said, I was going through trying for trying for
Hmm.
3 years, and then I'm like, what's wrong with me? And it's just such a sad narrative, because when people can't get pregnant, or like women can't get pregnant or something, it's like they immediately go to, I am broken, something
Hmm.
is wrong with me. And the truth is, it's not always the woman, first of all. And
Yeah.
second of all, it's also doesn't mean that you're broken. Like, if we can't have a baby naturally, it's like
Yeah.
it's a medical thing, right? It's a medical diagnosis, and it's not because a woman is broken. And I hate that narrative.
I felt that so hard at the time, where I was like, there's something wrong with me, because at the time, so many people, everybody around me was getting
Yeah.
pregnant. And like, I was so excited for them. I was like, oh, they're so
Yeah.
excited. I'm like really happy for you. And I was legitimately happy for them. But at the same time, I was
Yes.
like,
Of course.
oh, but what's
Yep.
what's wrong with me? And that is really how it felt. And I felt like I was like
Mm-hmm.
sitting in that for so long, and just looking back, it's funny because I'm like, there was nothing wrong with me. It just wasn't the plan for my life. Like, that was just not what was supposed to happen right then. And so now I look at everything with a
Yeah.
different lens, because I'm like, so often I'm like, why? Why is this happening to me? And you're in this like moment, and then I look and I'm like, everything that's happened in my life, whether it be good or bad, it was all for a purpose, and it all led me to where I am today. And it doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. Like, it just means that this is how it's supposed to be in this moment, and there might be a much better, bigger plan and a but reason down the line.
Um, what when you're like going through, or when you're going through that, or like looking back on it, What would you say are the top three questions you should ask yourself before you step into making this choice?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think number one is that are you willing to go on this lifelong journey? It's not a journey of just getting a baby in your house. It's are you willing to go through the good, the bad, the ugly? You are welcoming another family into your family, essentially, even if it's a closed
Mm-hmm.
adoption, which they don't really even do those
Closed. Yeah.
anymore. Yeah. They, I mean, that's just that I don't even know of that happening anymore. But they like are you willing to go on this lifelong journey, and do you have a good support system around you? Do you have a partner that's going to love and support you through this, that's on the same page as you? Do you have a family that's on the same page as you? I mean, we had our whole family was on board with it, so we knew as soon as we welcomed this baby into our house that she was going to be loved by the entire family. There's not one person that looked at her to be like different. Like she was just automatically a Gaston. She was automatically an Ordway. Like just everybody welcomed her with open
Yeah.
arms. So I think that would be my first question. My second question would be, you have to be really honest with yourself, because are you willing to have a baby that's not your biological child? I mean, that's a big deal. Like, because there are things that come up that
Yeah.
I'm like, well, is that like,
Totally.
yeah, like is that like that, you know, ways that the birth mother might have done drugs or whatever that had might have come up like during her pregnancy,
Right.
and different there's just no possible way to tell. And are you willing to welcome the baby into your life without any hesitation? Like there shouldn't ever be a moment where like, well, I don't know, like, and not making them feel like, oh, well, they're the adopted child, like making them 100% a part of your family.
Yeah.
That's so big, because I mean, I have heard, "Well, this is my daughter and this is my adopted daughter." I've heard people do this before, and it just breaks my heart and it gives me the biggest ick,
No.
because I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like they're both your child and you have to make them.
That kid feels separated.
Yes, yes. And then the third question would be, are you really ready for everybody to go through every personal aspect of your relationship, of your home, the way that you were raised, the way that your husband was raised, the way that you want to
Right.
raise your children? Because there's someone that comes into your home and they ask you the really hard questions. So, they ask like, well, were you ever spanked as a child? Are you going to spank your child? Like, they do a lot of home studies to make sure that you're a qualified household to
Yeah.
bring the baby in. And honestly, I was like, they kind of probably should do this with anyone bringing a baby home, because,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
like it was a lot of like great questions where I'm like, oh, I had
Be-
never thought about that. And so I
It's like a
just really,
pamphlet you should get when you get married and like you plan to have
yes,
children. Like these questions all need to be answered before you can have sex.
yes, exactly. And so I just feel like just being
Yes.
really willing to open your heart and open your home. And it has been the biggest blessing of my life. That little girl is like literally my whole entire heart. And as much as like,
Mm.
it's a journey and it's like not easy, but being a parent in general is not easy. Like it's hard and it's a journey and it's a struggle, and there's days where I feel like I'm like doing this so well, like there's no better mom than me, and then there's days where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna destroy them, they're gonna be in therapy forever, like like there's days where you just feel like you're failing like everything you do.
Both things can be true. Both things can be true, right? Like we can both
Yes,
be an amazing mom and also like make mistakes that might have them go to therapy one day, because that's just like
yes, yes,
naturally what happens. Like no one is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes, and the best we can do is learn from them and just every day wake up and be like, okay, I'm going to be better than I was yesterday. And like one really big question I want to ask before we like sort of wrap up. Someday, like Olivia
yeah,
might see this or might see something like this and hear you like talking about adoption and all of the things. And I think a message to her or to any adopted child is like, what would you say to them? I'm sure this is something that they get to carry through life beautifully, but they're also, I'm assuming, right? I have to make an assumption because I don't
Yeah.
have the experience, that there is a level of like not feeling wanted or not feeling as important, or whatever negative like connotation I could come up with. What would you
Yeah.
say to her or to any adopted child to know that they can like step into the best version of themselves? This is not a part of their story that has to bring them down.
Yeah. And I actually say this a lot to Olivia, like that she has so many people that love her. And when you're adopted, like there are other choices that could have been made that you might not even be standing here right now. And for someone to
Yep.
love you so much that they have made this decision to let someone else raise you because they feel like they're not in the place in their life that they can give you the very best that you deserve, like that is like the ultimate unconditional love, because that I can't imagine, that has to just break that person's heart. And so just knowing that your story is it's so important and it's gonna change other people's lives. Like your story is not that you were adopted, but that your story is that your life is so important and that you are so meant to be here, that you are so valuable in this world, that you're here for a reason, and that there's just your story started with love. And that, I don't know, that's my thing, is that I just always want to make sure that Olivia knows that she is going to change the world with her story, that she is going to like be able to impact other people. And she already has. I mean, there's a little boy in her class that's adopted, and his situation is a little bit different, but he always thought of a gotcha day as a somber day, of a day that his parents decided that they didn't want him anymore. And so when we started celebrating a coronation day and we were making it a big party, he was like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, I want to have a coronation day. I want to celebrate this," because it doesn't have to be a sad story or a sad journey. Like, and for me, I think it's just turning it all around and realizing that there's so much love in your life. There's so much love in the world, that your story is important and that you are so valuable and that you are going to change the world with your story. And that's why you're here. And I just believe that so much, because there's so many other options that people have, that they don't have to carry you for 9 or 10 months and then decide like, oh, okay, like yeah, like, I mean, that's the hardest choice to actually make. I mean, because to just have to go through that whole process. And so just to know that you're valuable and that you're loved and that you're making someone's dream come true. Because I tell this to Olivia and Sophie all the time. I'm like, you guys made my life. Like you are a dream come true. And like, I prayed for you every night. And like, I am so honored to be your mom, and that I got chosen. And that's like so cool for me, because they're both such an answered prayer, and that it's just, I don't know, it's really, really special.
So sweet.
Thanks for tuning in to A Splash More.
If you love this week's episode, please drop us a topic in comments, share this episode with a friend, and follow us so you never miss a splash.
And remember, keep owning your voice, take up space, and keep stepping into your most powerful self.
See you next week.
See you next week.